Joshua, man, so good to see you.
I'm still
Uh,
here.
Man, I'll tell you, man, it's been quite the journey with you. I met you right at the 2020 thing that took place, and you were just setting off to your journey,
Yeah.
and now here you are, and like you stayed in it, you stayed committed, you put your love where it's at with other people, and it's really fun to see people come up in the way that you have. So thanks for being that reflection for me.
Yeah, man, totally appreciate that. And yeah, I mean we met on that airplane. I heard some guy talking about some stuff, and that was Dale. And I was like, "Hey, he seems cool. Let me get your number." And we've chatted a few times. And were you like in the military or something at one time? Like, cause your beard wasn't as
You
flowing
know,
and beautiful when I first
well,
saw you, and now it's probably win a couple contests with that beautiful thing.
well, thank you. It was the case. I was in the military. I joined at 17. It was in the National Guard, and then about half of that time I was activated. So I got to see a good deal of how I love experiences and like how they change us. And so being in the military was one of those experiences that just had a profound effect on my life. Um, it's some of it's just really basic too. It's just like complete your mission, basic, but like they drill it into you. That's your number one rule. Yeah, you're going to complete your mission. So that was something that needed to be said to me, because I always had the option where it's like, well, I don't have to complete my mission. I'll just kind of go do that instead, because it looks like I could do that. And what I find is like if that's the mentality of a person, one that isn't standing for their mission and what they do, then they don't make it. They don't stand for anything. They get swayed off their path and their mark. And so, you know, it's staying true to what you care for, because there's things I would like to stand very heavily in, and that's one of them for the military. It's like complete your mission. What is it that you've come here to do? Complete that. And so
Well,
segueing
most people
into,
don't even start the mission.
whew, I'll tell you, man, starting the mission is it's quite the spiritual journey to get there. Like to take those leaps of faith like you took, like you're on a plane, you're like, I'm changing my life, I'm making a difference. And uh, we're coming back into the mission, Josh. Sorry about that interruption, but that's the idea. Is we're always going back to our mission at hand here. And so yeah, taking the leap of faith though, that was a big step. How did you do it? I mean, what was the things you had to come to where you had to come to the realization that that was the thing for you to do?
You just gotta do it and take money out of the equation, because you're gonna have to give something up in order to get what you actually want. And typically it's like most people, it's money related. Like, oh, I don't want to give up my job because I don't want to make less money. Even though that could be temporary. It could probably not forever, maybe forever. However, I don't feel like you should make decisions purely about money.
I love that you say that. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I feel that the big thing is like being able to be in your what do you call it? Your most alive self. There's an environment that would make you feel the most alive. And if you make it about money, I mean, it was so much about money. That's what we'd be right now. We'd be on the street selling stuff. We'd be over on the computer. That would be what we would live for. It's just the money, 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 money piece. If it was that thing, but we know it's not that. There's something that is a deeper purpose that we have. I find it's something that where we want to be in our. I guess we want to be able to be in our most peace, where we can feel the most. Like having an environment that would create that. I
Hmm.
find is where draws people to the most. And the ship has to keep sailing, right? So there's somebody who's got to go and make the work happen, so then you could be in this place you create for yourself. And a lot of times it's where getting your nest egg ready, so then you can create that place where, oh, this is the thing we always wanted. We actually wanted to be in our greatest peace, where we can feel our most vibrant. Um, and I
Yeah,
feel
and
like,
it might sound counterintuitive because I'm technically in the money business. However, I tell people making money isn't all about making money. It's about finding ways to bring value into someone's life that they didn't have before meeting you. And you could be on the wrong path. Some people are going down the wrong path and that's why they keep meeting the wrong people and they keep having the same problems that are recurring themes because they're stuck in like in a loop, a negative loop, versus you could be stuck in a positive loop where good things keep happening to you. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. Now, like, what are you doing now? Are you like, because I remember you were saying you're going to start doing like retreats and whatnot. Like, what are you up to? So, like, our audience can get a better understanding of who this Zen-like guy is.
all right, yes. What I can say to you is that I've been on this journey of self-love. That's what it come to be. It came a journey of self-love, because what I found is that in order for me to being able to be my greatest love, I actually have to love the lover that loves. So you have to be able to love yourself, so then you can allow yourself to expand outward. And when you have this expansion, it makes it to where the life is more vibrant, more information could come in. So I started to recognize what consciousness was in within me. And I had a journey that I took. I did a retreat that changed my life. It was an ayahuasca retreat called La Ceiba in Colombia. And there was an aspect of mine that I discovered while I was there that was myself. It was a higher self. And I was like, whoa, this is me. And this, I'm you, we're one. You know, this is this human self that is in this vessel. And then there's this deeper self that I was able to connect with. And when I was able to see myself from this higher conscious plane, I was like, that's the thing. That is it. That was the most love I've ever experienced. I want to be able to live in that state. I want to be able to thrive in that state as well. And I had to do a lot of relearning. And my relationship with money was one of the things I had to relearn, because it was the case that things were so programmed to go get it, to go get it, to find it, and do all these things with it. And if I'd decided within me that the most thing that I love the most was being able to live in this higher conscious plane of mind, then I should go align my world to that. And so about the time I met you, that's when I took that journey, where it was like, all right, this is going to be bigger than programming my mind to just receive money, because that's what the programs were before that. Program to get more money so we can get these things, program to get more money so we can get those things. At this point, I was like, okay, I want to program my mind to be able to be in this higher state of awareness. And in these higher states of awareness, I'm able to channel ideas and imagination like I've never had before. And so I wish to share this with the world. And that was right about the time where I met you. It was just kind of going in that direction. And from there, it's just kind of evolved. And so the purpose I have, the mission that I have, is to elevate the consciousness within me. I have to be for that within myself. And then also be for that within outside of myself. So elevating consciousness to higher planes of understanding is the sole mission that I've taken on for myself. And I mean, you can't do this alone. That's what I find. And I've tried, you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so ultimately it comes down to actually finding people that are like attracts like-minded people. So people that are on this journey that they actually want to go to understand how they can become happier within, and how they can live in these places. And when you live in these places, ultimately it's a change of who you are. Like, you're not this expression that lives in the lower plane of consciousness. It's as if you choose to be a new expression that can sustain a higher conscious mind. And so these retreats that I have, at the heart of it is simply that, is getting to get people to be very at peace with themselves, so they can come into greater awareness of who they are and what is. So that is in a long in a short version of what I've been up to this last 5 years.
What was that ayahuasca feel like? I've never done it. How would you explain it to someone who hasn't done it? Can
Oh
you
wow.
explain it?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
even put it into words?
yeah, you will never be able to get exactness when you put into words, but what we'll do is we'll get as close as we possibly can, and then just know it's beyond that. So what I would describe it as, I think one of the easiest ways to understand it is if you were to go out and you look at these trees behind me, right? Now, in my lower conscious plane of mind, I can make out one tree and I can see all the elements of the tree pretty well. When I go into a higher conscious plane of mind, the whole thing comes into vision, the whole spectrum of trees. All the little details of those trees are coming into vision right there, to the point where it's so captivating that parts of your mind just fall asleep in it, it feels like. And so I find like when you get into these higher conscious planes, part of it is to be able to observe the beauty of it, but still remain in your presence where you are. And then that allows you to take the surrounding that's around you and allows you to perceive it and be one with it. So what I would explain what ayahuasca does, it opens up all the perceptuary things that you have going on, and it gives you this ability to organize that chaos into understanding. And the main active component of it is DMT. Now, ironically, that is the same component that your pineal gland produces, your lungs produce, and your liver produces. So this dimethyltryptamine chemical, they call it the spirit molecule. Once it goes into your system, it has this effect of attuning itself to a frequency of very divine consciousness. And that's the best I can explain it, I feel.
What would you say to people that are scared to do it?
Rightly so, you know,
Because I mean
advice.
that could be it could be intense for some folks, and you hear of these crazy stories, and you have to essentially let go of control, and some people don't like doing that.
Oh man, I will say that the blessings I've gotten from doing it are just beyond this world amazing. Um,
How many times have you done it?
I've done it 8 ceremonies.
Oh crap, man. Most people never do it. Is it something everyone needs to do at least once, do you feel like, in order to like fully experience everything the world has to offer?
What I would say to them is that probably some aspect of their mind already has, because there's DMT getting put into the field and information is absorbed and knowledge is gained. Like when I think of the mind, it's not all up here. It's the whole body. The whole body's the mind.
The
So
body, the soul, the spirit, the
yeah,
mind.
yeah, to me, it's more like we're like a plural, more so than like we're like a plural coming into oneness, and then that makes up our being. But there's many forces that are taking place in the body. So if there's a part of mind that travels to this place where it experiences the grandest areas of consciousness, okay, now it goes there and it's trying to come back and tell the rest of its mind what it saw. And if it doesn't have a way to interpret the grandness scales of that to the body, then it doesn't. The knowledge can't root, if that makes sense. You have to have a way to root the knowledge into a physical structure for us to remember things. What you experience in the ayahuasca and the DMT world is completely spiritual. It's moviness, it's waviness, and there's no words to be able to kind of conform these things into a box that can make sense out of it. It's one of those things where if you want to know, you actually have to go and experience it. I could put the words out in front of you that can kind of tell you some things and make a structure that can give you a direction of what's going on. But you actually have to be there to see it, to believe it. And I think that like if there's like this idea of a mecca inside the body, because I like to think as within, so without, that would be like your pineal gland getting hit with like DMT. Like there's part of yourself going to the Mecca that's, oh, this is what the source is. This is our connection to source. Somehow it attunes to us to a connection to where I feel what I say is like ultimate love might be the best I have to explain to it. But that's where I'm at. Well, maybe it's just love that makes the world go round. So this DMT is like, oh look, when things are going good, we're going to sprinkle more. Um, we're going to create more DMT molecules. And now your body can align to a more loving place. This it fascinates me when I think of the mind, and I could just be in these spaces for long periods. But I feel like, yeah, if you're talking about ayahuasca and DMT, you gotta just the idea is if you feel called for it for whatever reason, there's people that do it, and you'll find a way there. For me, it was just a loop I kept going into, and it was like 5 years of researching it and understanding it. And I've never done a psychedelic at the time, but I loved learning about how the mind works. And matter of fact, this is what we share with each other. It turns out both of us have a background in actuarial science for undergrads. And one thing I love about people who choose that is they're really interested with accuracy and understanding how things work.
Well,
Like there's a
I got tricked into it. I don't know if you chose it, but I got tricked into it.
but there's an amplitude to pass that you have to be good at
Was that the
accuracy.
universe steering me in this direction?
I would say to the going there because you've gotten to think on those ways of thinking, you could be more for us now, Joshua. That's what I say. Because you've been able to go into like how do these ideas come together and how they, like filling in the blanks. That's what it looks like when you're in these you're dealing with mathematical statistics. They take out the numbers and they put a bunch of letters in there. And then now you're having to go and make sense out of letters. Uh,
A, A double dot, S double dot, all these terms and weird things that you when you start studying like math at that level, it's very easy to go in the negative direction. You start looking at things from statistical analysis. It reminds me of that movie with Ben Stiller, and was Jennifer Aniston in that movie, like Along Came Polly? Did you see that movie
I do remember that.
when
Yes.
he was like
Yeah.
the risk guy?
That's it. Yeah, that is the thing because it's like you want to measure everything. Everything's about measuring stuff, in that space of mind. And so I did find myself in that too. I was always looking, where's their value? How do I measure it? Where's this? How do I measure that? And I think like having a mind do that for a period of time is could be something that could be substantial that can add to that mind.
Yeah. That's why I think a lot of people that come from mathematical backgrounds or software engineer programming backgrounds are really bad at investing because they're always looking at like, oh, the odds are 67% this is going to happen. It's like, well, that doesn't mean it's always going to happen. Just
Oh,
like
right.
anything, just like failure. I mean, it's like, oh, this failed once. I'm never doing it again. It's like, well, you have a small sample size. You did it once. Do it 100 times and see how many times you fail, and then go back to the drawing boards. And I feel like that's where a lot of people take life the wrong way. It's like, oh, I went to this restaurant one time, bad experience, never going back. Well, everyone has a bad day. Some companies and restaurants have a bad day, but that doesn't mean they're bad people.
Oh, yes. The fear of failure.
Yeah, that
That
was
is
what I think that's what, well, that was the first video we did, like talking about fear.
right.
That was when your beard was only to hear.
All right. So,
Have you ever heard
fear.
the story about the person asked this gentleman who had a beard like yours, like, hey, does the beard go over the blanket or under the blanket? And then the guy was like, hey, I've never thought about it. And then he was like laying there at night, it's like, does it go over the blanket, under the blanket? He started like thinking about it and he couldn't sleep because he never thought about it and how that impacted. Like sometimes when you like overthink things, it could put you into a little bit of a rut.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. They call it from that book. It was called How to Succeed Without Giving a Fuck. They called the thought. I don't want to quote this correctly, but it reminds me of the thought loop from hell, or it's like it just keeps.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll roll with it,
We
and
could, we could
if
roll
we're
with that.
wrong, someone can let us know because the
Yeah,
internet
yeah.
is first to tell you when you're wrong, even if you're not wrong.
There you have it. Yeah. So like this idea of whatever you make the thing, that's like filtering the energy in your stream of consciousness.
Hmm.
So if it's a negative loop and you keep making it the thing, the thoughts start thinking in that direction and operating in that direction, and they start calling in something to use those thoughts to. And so, like, you can actually self sabotage yourself by making things the thing that should not be made the thing.
Hmm.
If you're going to make something the thing, you want to bring it in a positive thought loop. Oh yeah, this is the thing that I love the most. Oh, let's make that the thing. Oh yeah, that's the thing I love too. Oh yeah, let's make that the thing. There's a need to be able to point the finger at the thing that you would have more for yourself, more so than dealing with. I like to use the word fuckery of things, and fuckery for me
Yeah,
means not
I
good
just
or bad, and
I
that's the
just had
problem.
that. I just broke like one of my rules, and I broke the rule, and I told the person why I have the rule, and they're like, "Well, like, could you make an exemption?" I was like, "I don't think so, but you seem really nice, so I'll meet you in the middle. I'll do this for you." I was like, "Hey, I won't do this, but I'll do this." And I did this. I went out of my way to help this person, like give them what they were looking for. And I asked them, like, "Hey, what were your thoughts?" And they're like, "What you said was very generic." And I was like, "Well, if you're not willing to meet with me and tell me about your specific situations, how could you expect me to give you custom advice and guidance?" And you know what they said? Nothing. They did not respond. Absolutely nothing. So it just like confirmed, like, I knew this was like red flag, red flag, red flag. They're like not meeting what I'm asking them to do. And it's a very small ask. And it confirmed my beliefs like, hey, this isn't the right person for me to engage with.
Yeah. If you're going to help someone or someone's going to help you, there's a need to actually tell what your position is.
It's like if I go to a doctor and I talk to him on the phone, I go, hey, my foot hurts. Tell me what to do. And then I can't expect them to give me a good answer. They're like, well, it could be X, Y, Z. I'm like, well, that's generic. I could just Google that. It's like, well, I got to diagnose and see your foot because the foot has the most bones in the human body. It's very complex. People don't understand that. That's why if you get a foot injury, it takes a long time to heal because there's not a lot of blood flow down there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But people, I don't know. It's almost sad to me when I don't know if you feel this way. When it's sad to me when you see like the potential in someone and then you just see that they're constantly self-sabotaging.
Mm, mm, yeah.
You just like see they're just like, you're making all these choices like willingly and it's just working against you. But they're not going to change. Even though you could like help the person, it's hard when you find people that love living in misery. Like it's all they know.
Yeah. They have a way of being, and they very well could be emotionally attached to that way of being. And that way of being was probably needing to evolve, where you're supposed to release some things to allow for a new expression, because we're supposed to be elevating ourselves, rising above from our, if we're ever going to be evolving species, we have to look at how can we be better than when we are today. And so if you're someone who brings awareness, you're like, hey, look, I can help things because I have this type of awareness, is the love I have. And then if they aren't able to tell you their position, then you can't even be of service to them. And the other part is sometimes they can't even tell their position to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's the actual tragedy of it. If they can't be in their truth, if they can't say what it is that they are to themselves, if they're going to be deceitful about themselves, they have no way of improving themselves. That's a huge part of actually evolving consciousness, is for it not um, to be able to call itself, to call a spade, to be accurate, to be honest about what is actually truly happening. And like, if so, they can't be honest to you if they can't be honest to themselves. So for me, it's nothing to be taken personally in many ways. If you can help them see where they're not being honest with themselves, that's a gift. Hey, this is a position, this is a thing that you should really consider, because if you consider this, it may prevent you from self-sabotaging yourself. and what a gift that would be if you can show them, how you can evolve them, um, where they could be in a happier state.
How do you respond in those situations when you're met with those negative people that you're just like, do not engage, do not engage?
Man, I will say that I
Because I'm sure
have this.
people judge you, like if you're dressed funny compared to other people, but like I'm dressed funny if I went to a certain place in the world. Like it just all depends on your environment.
It really comes down to, like, if I reflect with someone, it's gonna be because I intend to elevate them, because that's what I stand for, right? So if I'm gonna meet you into your space of mind, like, and I'm gonna have compassion. Like, I this is something I take on myself to have, is compassion. I'm gonna do unconditional loving practices as best as I can. So then I can embody the other person. So I take it deeply when I go into those spaces of reflecting. I want to go, because if we're going to be about talking about what's causing us, our minds, to cause and effect, I want to be able to meet that person as deeply as they can meet themselves. So for me, it's like, if I'm met with resistance, then they're afraid. They're afraid of that. A lot of people aren't open to these deep reflections that can help them see beyond the blocks that they have within. And for me, that's really what I found with going into greater elevated consciousness, is finding the block and say, hey, look, this is the block. Do you see it? And you do it unconditionally and say, this is how it affects you. This is how it causes and affects you. And it's creating an outcome for yourself that you wouldn't love as much.
That reminded me of The Matrix, what you just said. When
Okay.
like the little girl with Neo and like the first one, it's like don't think of the spoon because there is no spoon. And I feel like that's the same thing with like your fear, or when you're overthinking something, like don't think of a spoon because there is no spoon. Like don't think of failure because there is no failure. It's like, yeah, you could go through some struggles and setbacks and all parts of life, that pretty much everyone on this earth goes through some sort of struggle. However, don't think about it because it's not actually there. It's just, another bump in the road.
Oh, I
Um,
like that. I like that way of dealing with that thought. Don't think, because if it's something that you wouldn't be a part of your stream of consciousness, don't think about that, because there is no the thing. And
yeah.
then the next part of the mind is directed towards what you would want the reflection to be. What is the thing? The mind wants to know what the thing is.
It's like people want to be successful, but they're not willing to do what it takes to be successful.
Right. Yeah.
Like, are you willing to go through the pain? Just like the gym or anything. Like, are you willing to go through the pain? Are you willing to do the best thing I like to say is like, hey, are you willing to work out your legs? Like, that's typically the exercise people neglect. Like, if you want to be a real beast, you got to do your legs. You got to exercise your legs because that feeds the rest of the body. That's the foundation. That's what you're walking on, all day.
I feel you there, and in many ways, I'm looking to always do it easier. So it's another part of me, because, like, there's things that have to
Is
get
it
done.
is it easier or more efficient?
Efficient for me.
Because
For me, it's
there's a
like,
difference between like the easy route and the efficient route. It's like, hey, do I need to
yes.
walk back and forth like 5 times to do this, or could I just wait and do this one time? Just like little things like that. It's
That
like the invention of a backpack. Like imagine like before a backpack, like people would have to carry something and bring it somewhere, carry it and bring it somewhere. Versus now you just throw everything in a backpack, and then how much time that saves. Like I'm always looking at like how do you save time without cutting corners so that you can
yeah.
experience more things. And the more things you can experience, the more things you can do, the better chances of outcomes that you'll be able to have.
I see, that's the mathematical statistic mind he's got going out there. I
Yeah.
love
Like
that.
like they like did a study for have you ever heard about like the study they did on for like art students like in a photography class? They told
Okay.
like half the students you can only take 10 pictures, and then they told like the other half of the students they could take unlimited pictures. And then the students that took unlimited pictures got way better shots than the ones that only took 10, just from doing it more. The more you do
Oh,
it, the easier it becomes.
yes. Yeah, that reminds me of like every time you do it, you're bettering yourself, you know? So like, and you have more repetitions and you have more observations you can better. So having a mindset, for me, this is key for expanding consciousness for all your viewers. Having a mindset that is looking to better itself is key because it is the antidote to there's this it seems like a virus that's taking place on this planet. It's the victimizer virus. People they somehow have thought processes all around it where it's like the reason why I should do this or shouldn't do this because that thing happened to me in the past or that thing happened to me there, this person did that to me, therefore I'm going to do this to that person. Because here's the thing that people don't realize about that virus, we'll call it. It's if you're the victim, a thought that has a victim simultaneously calls for a thought that's a victimizer. And so when you reflect victim victimizer, you reflect victim in there, it's reflecting victimizer in the background. In the subconscious arena of mind, thoughts they're over there creating all sorts of things. And that dynamic, that yin and yang of the victim victimizer is toxic because there's a party that's losing every time. There's a part that's gaining every time, and it creates distrust in a mind.
Mhm.
And so the antidote to that is we're doing the best we can, and we're going to do better the next time.
Mhm.
And so we saw this. All of us want peace. All of us want more love in this world. We did the best we can. How could we do it better next time? And just if we make we make that the thing for the mind. That's the thing that would actually move us into a higher states of consciousness as a collective. It'll create where there's more trust between us as well, because people will have more trust within themselves.
Yeah. Too many people look at don't don't look at from where they started to where they are. They look at, where were they at the top to where they are if they have a setback. I see it all the time, like with investing. It's like, hey, someone invests $10,000 into something and it grows to $1 million. And then their $1 million turns to 700,000. They're just like, oh, I lost $300,000. I'm like, well, you actually made 690,000, but you had a little bit of a setback. So it's like, which one are you looking at? Are you looking at the 690,000 in gains or the $300,000 of losses? And most people go to the loss side, and that's why most people fail with investing, because they're always looking at the negative.
Yeah, I see you there. It's like, how do you respond when the negative stuff happens? That's what tells you the type of person that you could be. Under the positive, I'm that guy that made this amount of money. I had a loop into this one before, where I made an exorbitant amount of money, and then I found myself kept thinking about how to get back there. And meanwhile, I'm making these bets that shouldn't be making in the stock market, where it's dwindling my account.
Well,
And
sometimes events are singular.
oh, the whole thing is so complex that that you try to make sense of it, and when you bring in human consciousness into the market, it creates irrational happenings. And so, being able to like really, you can kind of go with the sways of it, but the exactness is very complex. And this brings us into AI, really, if we wanted to go in that space. But
I feel like we've gone a little too far with the AI stuff. A little bit too
I
far it's a little too far. There's still instances where people are better than technology, especially when the technology fails. But when the people are too lazy to do the work to solve problems and you just fully rely on technology, then you get people that are upset at not technology, but a company, an organization, a person, because it's like, hey, like, you're not stepping up to the plate to assist me when I'm having a problem, even though I've gone through all of the steps required that technology can help me with. Sometimes you need a real person to come in and hold your hand and figure out what's going on. Can't just YouTube everything.
oof, you said it there, man. And I'm just looking at like I'm cause and effecting this out in my mind. That's to the highest conscious mind I can conceive of. And these you can write stories and books by saying exactly what you want and then filling in the background. And it is like you don't need to think. You just tell the machine what to think about, and it thinks. So you have to think about thinking about what, I guess, to some degree. And then it populates based on all the collective thoughts. It finds the path least resistance. And the things that it creates with the artwork, holy smokes, absolutely amazing. With the knowledge that it pours into, with I like to listen to things with they put some really good content about how religion's an inside thing or an outside thing or a spiritual thing, and it just has a really beautiful way of conveying what things are. And it does go into the space where I have a friend who's a computer programmer, where he sees that what was populated by it was not, it was faulty. So it's not perfect, is what it's coming down to. So now you have something that can make something so magical and believable, but it's still made by human thoughts. And human thoughts, they have imperfections.
Yeah, I was using ChatGPT to help me out with something. It's like a calculation, and then I reviewed it. I said, "Hey, did you forget to do this?" And they go, "Oh yeah, you're correct. Let me fix this." And it went do 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 do, and it fixed it faster than I could fix it on my own. But you still have to be able to recognize when it makes an error, and it recognized it made an error, but you had to tell it, like, "Hey, like, aren't you supposed to do it this way? Because I noticed you didn't add this back." And I was like, "Oh, you are correct based on this. Let me do it." And I was just like, "Oh man, people are just putting it in who knows what and making cool videos and graphics about it and just repeating it back to the internet, and they could just be a, friendly person and have a good following, and people are believing everything that they're saying that may or may not be their own thoughts."
Yeah, they might just be really good about how to work Chat GPT. And I think that is, or any other AI system, of course. And I think that might actually be the next revolution in many ways. Is like, how can you tell something to do what you want it to do? Because we actually have the capability for these AI components to actually put together a process for you. Um, so for me, that's a whole nother paradigm shift for human consciousness. We're going to a point where we're creating based on what we have internally within that we can use,
Mm.
and then based upon what we've reflected in the external and been influenced, this information here, that information there. Now we're getting to a place where the words are the structure that calls in this expression. Now the expression for me is like the spiritual component of it. So somebody will just say in words what is wanted, and then a spiritual expression comes out of it. And these people that come out of it look so real that, like, to me, I'm like, that is just a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing. But it's not real, but it's a beautiful thing. And so I'm just saying, yeah, when you start looking in what's the future with AI, and now I'm looking at how that there's a CEO of Microsoft that said for the company, when the paradigm shifts, if you have no value to add, there's no God given reason for you to exist. And I'm like, what does that mean exactly? What does that mean? And then for me, I'm like, wow. So like the paradigm, what is the paradigm? Because like there's a lot to that, and I'm paraphrasing. So you have to really go back and read the article. This was in a Fortune magazine, and it was with the CEO as a female one. That was, so I don't go out overboard, but that idea was really what I'm getting into, because the idea that you should be adding value, and if you don't have value to add, then you can almost see it as like a, um, I guess like,
Well, AI is just the new hot thing. It's been around for a long time. It was like, now it's AI. Before AI, it was crypto. Before crypto, it was like multifamily. Everyone getting in the multifamily. Then it was like the marijuana industry. Those are like the last four big ones I can think of that like people are like, oh, I got to get into this. It's how they make a lot of money. It's like people are always looking for that next gold rush versus just like doing what you want to do and setting yourself up to take advantage of when that gold rush happens without having to run to it. Just letting it run to you without having to
Yeah,
chase
right.
it.
Right, like positioning yourself for you see where the momentum's going. It's good to be in a place where you can actually
Yeah.
position.
I talked to
Yes.
one guy one time and he goes, yo, man, you're like way too chill. Like you need to be like grinding and working. And this was like a person who, their whole business model is they have to make sales to get more business. So like they're in like a hunter mentality, like eat what you kill. You got to like be making phone calls and doing this and that. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I could do that, but that seems like a lot of work. And I have my entire life to work. So why not just start putting systems in place and you can be the hare and I'll be the tortoise and we'll see who wins in the end.
Yeah, you can be more methodical of how to get there. From at the end of the day, we're all navigating the unknown. That's what I find. So that person might be one who's like, okay, we're
Yeah.
navigating this way. You got to grind it out.
Well,
I'm
I feel like people don't understand that the world has consistently been getting better, not worse. I mean, think about
Yeah,
just 50 years ago. Where were we 50 years ago? That would have been what, 1960, 74? 1974? What was happening in 1974? I don't know. Probably, was that like Nixon, Watergate,
gas problems
gas
and
problems?
yeah.
Interest
Uh,
rates were above 10%, which people were like, oh, it was great because you can make a lot of money in your bank account. But I think inflation was really bad then too.
yeah, I will say that the idea of even like diversity and having like money be a thing like in your diverse there's a place where it's where like owning companies versus like having it in cash or having your money into something tangible as a way of doing things because you never know when things get inflated. I mean, you just look in our lifetimes and you can see where it's happened because nobody predicts war, but war breaks out and then things get inflated and
Well,
then currencies exchange out and what have you.
all of these things are man-made, right? War, inflation, money. So why can't they be mastered?
That's where I'm at with it too. Yeah.
Like if they're created by, it's not like we're attempting to figure out these equations that people haven't figured out yet. Like everything that people are attempting to master has already been done. So we know it's doable. Just kind of like who was it, that one guy who was attempting to break, what was it, like the 4 minute mile or the 5 minute mile? Like no one had done it before. And then he did it, and then a bunch of people did it. But it was like that limitation, oh, this can't be done. And
There you go. Right.
then someone does it. It's like, oh, it can be done.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's it. Like, you actually have to believe it could be done for it to be done. And I will say that it's interesting you say that because this is where I'm at with like moving consciousness above where it's at today, and these lower victimizer mentalities that actually are thoughts that allow for war. There are war thoughts. So
Mhm.
by the population anchoring these ways of being and operating, they become those energetic anchors for war to take place. If you have an energy that's being reflected out, you know, peace, unity, love, peace, unity, come together. We're better than this. We're rising above. This for me is like the archetype of the phoenix, where we're all
Mhm.
coming into oneness. We're coming into our higher selves. We're elevating beyond this plane of consciousness into a better place. And I think the movement is getting closer for us, that movement, because there's a level of chaos that a human mind is willing to endure, and at some level, people are like, oh no, I'm not going further into this fuckery. And this is the victimizer mentality. It'll just collapse, it'll separate one from themselves. And then it also creates a separation of selves in the external. It's as within, so without. There's an energetic effect. Whereas we bring it into, we're rising above, we're doing better. And this is where it's a self-love journey, is because you have to be able to identify who you are and understand how things cause and affect us so we can navigate what it is that we are. Because what's going on next is there's going to be these AIs that have prediction abilities that will be able to tell you all sorts of things about how movements are to predict outcomes. So they'll know all the different various patternings and behaviors, and based on your likes here, your likes there, you're going to operate within this realm of action. They're going to operate in those realms of actions. They'll be able to put together an algorithm that cause and affects an outcome. And so for me, that's the thing that people are afraid of as AI develops. And for me, that's the thing that says, actually, we actually have to develop consciousness more first. So this is where we move ourselves to a different paradigm, where we're able to understand how we're cause and affected. For instance, the chakra centers in the body are different minds. They have, your heart is for feeling into the direction. Your truth is held right here in your solar plexus, your deeper truths. Your passion is in your root chakra. So it's like knowing how your passion gets affected, and it causes and effects through your sacral region, that cause and effects to your heart, that cause and effects to an output, an action, a pattern. So a self-love journey is really a journey about just really understanding who you are as a conscious mind, how you are cause and affected. And for us to be able to, in a world, have this grandness scales of AI and what these thoughts are capable of, we actually have to advance ourselves spiritually. Maybe find new language that can help us advance. But for me, it's here. It's already here. So what I know that it's called for is for us to be in our higher conscious mind. And that's my purpose. And bringing back around what I'm doing right now and we're about 2 to 3 weeks before it's finished. And I have to give you a shout out to my father, because he's been helping me build this dream. And I have a divine counterpart, Brittany Phoenix, and she has been in this journey with me to, I guess, kind of like shift the population. So like for me, if there's a person that needs to be out there and I believe in something bigger, I am that person. I believe that there's a way that we can get there, something bigger. And that belief comes from, because I feel it within me. So I just have to radiate the next paradigm, which is moving beyond this victimizer mentality to this, we're doing the best we can, and we're about being our higher divine selves. We're going to elevate out of this together through, openness, unconditional love, and removing the blocks. That's what it comes down to, removing the blocks in many ways. Thanks for letting me go on to that rant over there, Josh.
For sure. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Peace and love. We'll see everyone next time.